All right. So it's now 1 o'clock, so we're gonna get started here. Um, so this is what we're drawing today. It's a little still life. Um, so we're going to be going over how I draw it and then how I shaded it. And yeah, that's our class for today. If you'd like to take a photo of it, you can take a photo of it now. I'll move it more to the middle of our screen. And I'll just wait for a second and then we will get started. All right, so for today's class, you will need a pencil and a eraser and some sort of paper. I'm going to be working in the same sketchbook that we've been working in. And for today's class, because we're doing quite a bit of shading and texture, I suggest using a wooden pencil. And I also suggest having a pencil sharpener with you. So lots of the shading we're going to be doing is using more of the flat side of the pencil, like this, to get a more surface area colored in easier. So that's why I would suggest using a wooden pencil, as that's a little bit more challenging to do using a lead pencil. And yeah, we will get started right away here. So for most of the class, I'm going to be leaving this as a reference for us. So it'll be kind of in frame for most of the class. And yeah, so like I said, this is what we're drawing today, and this is kind of a still life of sorts. With a traditional still life, you're drawing right from life, so rather than a sketch, we're drawing from a photo. But today we're going to be doing it based off of this sketch. Um, yeah. So we're going to be starting off here with this vase that is in the middle of our page. Um, so you kind of want to start somewhere in the middle, slightly above the middle of your page, and we're going to be putting in an oval as the top of our base here. So I'm working very light to start off with, but you want to start by just drawing in a very thin oval. And this is the mouth of our vase here. So the way that I constructed this vase is starting off with like almost completely ovals. The only thing that I really added besides ovals to start off with is a center line. So this is kind of you want to go somewhere in the middle of your um, oval and drawing a line down the middle. So this is just to keep um, the vase we're drawing centered and even throughout. So we are adding this in. I'll make it a little bit darker. But you can see right now my pencil is very, very light. And this is kind of like what we did um, with the animals we drew last week by just starting off with our bare minimum of construction lines here. So the next oval we are adding is going to be quite smaller, a little bit higher up than that. And we're using that middle line as our reference for kind of where to put this oval here. So you can see mine is kind of lopsided, and thanks to that line, we can try to keep it as even as possible. All right, so this is the neck of our vase here, and we're going to add in another oval, and this one is going to be quite big here. So you want it slightly bigger than the neck of our vase and slightly further down from this. This is the neck, this is the open, like the top of it, sorry. Um, but you want it slightly bigger than the top and somewhat down from this area, a little bit more than what we have it from the top there. But yeah. So the last oval we put in, you kind of want it to be roughly the same size as this one, and we're going to put it right at the bottom of our line here. So you can see I'm kind of using my pencil here to kind of match up those lines near the bottom and using that as the reference for the size here. So before we move on here, I am going to change this middle oval here because if you're looking back kind of here, this oval is very thin and this one is very thick. So what I'm going to do is just kind of thin it out just a little bit. And I'm going to round out this neck one just a little bit more. So from here, we're going to draw in kind of the shape of the vase. I'll just wait for just another couple of seconds here, and then we'll draw in um, our like contour lines of the outside of things, and we'll be drawing in these kind of reference lines for these shapes here. So the way to draw in these contour lines is to go from the outside of your oval to and connect it to the next oval here. So on both sides, I'm just taking the very like outside point and then over to the next outside point. And we are going to be doing this all the way down our bottle here. So we're taking that point and making it a little bit rounded and just connecting it to the next line. And then on this side as well. And you can see my lines are kind of curved um, on this part of the vase. And yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm just kind of following and going slightly out before going down instead of going in a straight line. And the next lines, we want to keep them as straight as possible. So you can see to start off with, I'm kind of following my pencil down very lightly, like you can barely see it in person even, and then kind of tracing over that line as we want to keep it nice and straight. And when I'm doing my straight lines, you can see I kind of keep my hand completely on the piece of paper to keep my line as straight as possible. So if my hand was floating above my paper, it would be very hard to get a straight line, as you can see. So keeping your hand on the paper helps you steady your lines, and then you get uh, crisper and more straight lines when you need them. And I'm going to be doing that on the same side here, or on the other side here.
No, no, by ruler, I think.
Pardon?
By ruler.
Oh, you could use a ruler. Yes, that's another thing that you could do.
Yeah.
You could also use a piece of paper if you have one. Um, so let me kind of show you what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, so if you take, this is just a cheap sketchbook, so I'm just taking a page out of the back of it.
Mhm.
And to make a ruler, I just fold it up a couple of times. So the page is a lot thicker. And then I'll use one of the edges as a ruler.
Mhm. Good job. Yes. Thank you.
So that is another thing you could do. Yes. All right. So here is the foundation of our pot or our vase. And we're just gonna erase some of our lines here, and then we will add in some more of the contouring lines. So, um, for things to erase, I'm going to erase this middle line. And it doesn't have to be like perfect or anything. You can see I'm not going through my ovals here and just erasing in between them. And the other lines we're going to erase are the back sides of our ovals here. So this top line for the neck and the top line for this one as well. And then the top line for the base here. But we are leaving the neck open so we can put some flowers and some sticks inside of it. So we want to leave that line there. And now I'm going to go in and just kind of darken some of these outlines that we have. So I won't darken these two as much, but just kind of our outside lines here. And this is just to keep our vase looking crisp. So yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so this is our starting of our drawing here, kind of. Um, so when you're drawing a still life, you kind of want to find um, the anchor is kind of what it's called sometimes. So it's kind of like the big piece that your focus is more drawn to. So in this drawing, it's kind of the vase that is more of the focus, as it's the only man-made thing in the drawing. Um, so this is kind of what you put in first. You put in the big object that kind of catches your eye, and it's kind of the base for everything around it. Um, yeah, so it varies from different still lifes, but you want to start with the piece that you look at the most. And for this drawing, it's the vase that's kind of that. Um, so we're going to finish off the outlines of this base, and then we're going to move on to some other things. Um, so the vase I have split up into three parts here, and I'm going to follow the lines. You want to keep them parallel to the outsides. So one of your lines will be parallel to this side, your right side, and then the other will be parallel to your left side. And you want to keep them mostly even. And yeah, you can see my middle section is a little bit more um,
You-
like bigger, and that is kind of what I'm looking for. And I can also tell that the base on this side is a little bit too wide, so I'm just thinning it a little bit and then just fixing that little corner there that made it too wide of a side. So now it matches more with the right side of our vase. So these lines I'm going to continue up into the neck of our bottle here. And once again, I'm following the outside lines to kind of match them a little bit. Um, yeah, just so it looks more uniform. We want to try to make it look as three-dimensional as possible. And so the final step of our vase here is just adding in a rim for our opening at the top. So I'm just following that same oval and just going slightly smaller around the edge of it on the inside. And I'm kind of leaving a space at the back blank for right now, as we won't be seeing a whole lot of it after we put in our flowers. So this here is the finished kind of construction lines for the vase. We are going to come back and do all of the shading, but for right now, this is our foundation for things. Yeah. So the next thing we are adding in is going to be some apples, and I'm going to be adding in two of them. So I'm putting one at the front here, and I'm just starting out with a circle. So I'm just roughing in kind of where I would like it to be with this circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just putting that in place for right now. And I am having it overlap the vase here. And you kind of want things to overlap because then it'll make your drawing look a little bit more 3D. So now to make this circle into an apple shape, I'm going to kind of like cut off the sides of our circle here and go slightly downward from the bottom of our circle and then cut off a little bit more of our circle here. So you're left with this like round on top and like tapered. It's kind of like an oval, but well, it is an oval. It's just a little bit more egg shaped. And I'm just going to erase these circle lines that I had in place. And I'm also going to erase this part of the vase that's behind this apple here. So you can kind of shape this apple however you would like. You can see I'm making it a little bit rounder on both sides. Just to give it a little bit more of a rounded shape. And then I'm going to add in a dot a little bit down from the top here in the middle. Yeah, so this is going to be where our stem is of our apple. And I'm going to follow the round shape of the top here and kind of put a dip and then round it back out to the side. And this is just to put in a line of where we're going to be shading it. So it doesn't have to be super dark. And I'm going to erase these lines at the side here. I'll just leave it for a second so you can all see how I did this line. Um, yeah. So from now, where this stem is, we're going to draw a line out and kind of crooked. So this stem can kind of be like with most of the organic things we draw, it can kind of go however you would like it to. And I'm just going to thicken it up a little bit and then draw a little bit of a larger shape on top of it and a leaf coming out of the side of that. So the way I draw leaves is I start with a line, and that's for kind of the middle of our leaf, and then drawing in a a little bit of a very soft S shape here. So it points toward the end of it, but it's um like round at the top, and then it goes into more of a point. And then this far side, as you don't see as much of it, I'm just doing a semicircle for it. Or like an arc, I guess, because it's not really a circle. So now we're going to add in the second apple at the back here. And I'm going to, again, start with a circle. And you can see I am overlapping the base, and that's just to kind of see the shape of everything. And this apple, I'm just going to make it a little bit shorter. So I'm still going to kind of draw in that straight line and the rounded part at the bottom, but you can see it's just barely bigger than the circle there. And I'm just following our final kind of line here and erasing the rest of my circle. And I'm going to erase the part that is covered by the vase. And there is our second apple base shape. So you can see on the one in my original sketch, it's facing kind of away from where the drawing is. So we're not going to be adding in the part where we can see the stem. We're just going to add in that stem. So you can see I'm starting off with a little bit of a crooked line here, and then adding in that top part and making my lines a little bit thicker here, and then adding in our leaf. I am going to apologize about my voice. Getting over a bit of a nasty cold, so if my voice is pretty bad today, I am sorry. I'm drinking lots of water. Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to do the leaf very similar to the other one. Um, but you're not going to be able to see most of it. So it's a little bit of a simpler shape. So I'll just wait for a second, and then we will get started on drawing some flowers. Okay, I'm gonna start drawing in these flowers. Um, and like most of the things that we've been drawing, we're going to start off with a circle, just to kind of rough in the placement of them. So take my pencil very lightly. I'm going to draw in a big circle here, and it's just going to come like be placed just below the rim of our base here. And the other one is going to kind of overlap it at the top here like this. And then the third flower that I'm going to be putting in, you can see it's facing backwards. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of like a squished circle. So it is quite oval shaped, but this is just to kind of show that it's facing more sideways than right onto the camera or camera, like where the drawing, the point of view of the drawing. That's what it's called. So from here for our flowers, I'm going to draw in the centers of my flowers. So I'm going to add circles in the middle of these and an oval on like in the middle of this oval. And rather than this being the center of the flower, it's actually going to be the back of it. Um, yeah. So I'm going to add in the stem here, and I'm going to start from this top circle and kind of follow the line down into the vase here. And you kind of want to put it in a way that it's believable that it goes into the vase. So you can see if I take this line and I draw it, it would fit into um, the vase, but we're just going to draw the top part of it. And then I'm going to draw a line going into this flower as well. And you won't be able to see it on this one, so we don't really need to add it in.
Well, in the darkness.
So now is the fun part of adding in all of the petals. So for this, I try to keep them looking as simple as possible, lots of my flowers. So these ones, if you look up close, it's just a bunch of like long, like half ovals that I have
Okay.
added in. So that's kind of how I do most of my flowers when I'm pencil sketching. So from this middle here, I'm just drawing in little half ovals from center here, and I'm just going all the way around the middles. So I'm going to do the same to this top flower, but I'm not going to do it to the sideways one, as we wouldn't see these ones from the angle that it is at. So I'm just adding in these little circles to the front-facing flowers. So the bigger petals on these flowers are very similar to the way we did the little ones. They're just a little bit longer, and I often um, kind of taper them as they get towards the middle. So you can see they get a little bit thinner as they go towards the center. And yeah, I just kind of add them all the way around, and you can make them super thin or super thick, and it kind of just is based on what you want your flower to look like.
Sunflower.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sunflower. Um, for a sunflower, I would put kind of pointier leaves. So if you wanted to draw in a sunflower, the way I would do leaves is kind of how we did the leaf of this one, and you want the shape to be more like this if you're doing a sunflower. So you want it to be more of like a diamond shaped leaf. Um, yeah, I really like drawing sunflowers. They're my favorite. Yeah, so I'm going to add in the petals on the next flower as well, just following the same kind of formula of having them taper as they get towards the middle. And you can see here when I get to the point where the circles overlap, I'm putting the leaves or the petals kind of behind the ones that I already have. So if they're going to overlap, they're going behind this flower as it's behind it in my sketch here. And you can put it in the front or you can have them not touch at all. I'm also going to cover this circle here as this one is completely in the back. So these leaves are going to carry forward like in front of that oval that we put in. I'm also going to add in the leaves for leaves petals for this one here, and I'm just making sure that they go behind both this flower, and I'm also going to be putting them behind the rim of the vase here. Just like that. And I'm going to erase this main circle we have, and I will wait uh, for a minute to keep going after that. So I'm just going to erase any lines that I don't need. So I'm erasing our circle that we started out with, and I'm erasing any parts of the vase that overlap our plant. So this can get a little bit tedious. Um, so often when I do flowers, I try to draw in that first circle as light as possible. And yeah, you kind of want to leave it very light because then you don't have to worry about having as many of the lines showing if they're very light. Um, yeah, so then you don't have to erase as much. So I have all of the extra pencil erased here, and I will just wait for a minute or two and then we will keep going. So this is just a little bit of a tip for you guys. If you have a lot of pencil that gets on your hands while you're drawing and you smudge a lot, like I do, something you can do if you're working on a sketch and you don't want to have any smudges on your hand, you can put a piece of paper down and rest your hand on the paper when you're drawing, and then the paper will pick up any of the smudges and it won't put them down as easily as your hand will. So it kind of keeps your drawing more safe. Um, yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that with charcoal though, if you're ever using charcoal, as charcoal will smudge with a piece of paper like that. But if you're just doing pencil sketches, uh, then it's sometimes nice to keep your page a little bit cleaner. Okay, so we're gonna keep going here, and we're going to add in some more details to our flower. We're gonna add in the stem and the back of this flower, and then we will move on to the sticks in uh, the top of this pot here. I'm going to make them a little bit differently as I don't have as much space up at the top here, but we will add them on this side instead. You can add them like my sketch as well if you have more space. Um, yeah, but we'll add in some sticks and leaves in just a second here. So for the back of this flower, going to add in some spiky points coming out of the back of the stem here, and that's just like the leaves that kind of are behind a flower. If you ever look um, at a flower, it'll have the leaves that covered it when it was like budding. So those are the leaves that I'm adding in now, and I'm just going to kind of color them in. Um, yeah, so this is kind of the first shading that we're adding, and it's just to make sure that we can kind of um, differentiate between the stem and the actual flower. So you can see I've thickened up this stem as well, and I'm going to color it in the same way that I colored in the back of that flower, and I'm going to also color in the stem that goes up to the top flower there. So there are a couple more details that we can add to our flower here, and one of them is just adding in this center of our flower here. And the way that I do that is just adding in a spiral, and I kind of make this spiral um, like bumpy. So I do this one. I haven't seen the actual flower that I'm drawing. Um, if I were drawing from a photo reference, I would add in what the middle looks like of that actual flower. But because I'm not entirely sure um, what kind of flower this is, I'll show you up close what I mean by spiral here. So that's, oh, uh-oh, why did it go dark? What is happening here? Great, I broke it. Um, I don't know what happened. That, what happened? Okay, oh, there we go. Okay, I fixed it. Nope, what? We do that, and then we put it back. There we go. My webcam is very weird. All right, back to good. But you kind of saw that spiral that I added in. Um, yeah, so I just put that in the middle and kind of shade it over top of it. Not super dark, but dark enough that it's different than the petals. I'm going to do that to the other flower as well. The other detail we're going to add to our flowers is just adding in some lines on our petals. So I'm just going very lightly down the middle of our petals here and just adding in some texture to most of them here. I think I'm doing all of them. Yep. And I'm just adding in, and this is just to kind of add in a little bit more shape to some big blank spots of our flowers. And I'm going to add them to the littler petals as well. And I'm going to do that to the other two flowers as well. All right, so we're going to move on to drawing in the sticks, and they're fairly simple. Um, and how I do them is I just start with a a line, and then I kind of branch it off into two spots. So I'm making like a Y, and sometimes I make them like longer on each side or the same. And this is the formula that I use for making most of like branches and things for trees and also for sticks like this. And it's just making um, Ys out of your lines here. So you can see all of my sticks on this one as well are just Ys. Um, yeah. So I'm going to add in two sticks here, and one of them is going far out that way, and the other one is kind of staying towards the middle here, like so. And now that I have this line kind of mapped out, I'm going to go back in and just draw a line next to it to kind of thicken them up. And you can see at the end of my wise eye making them just go into points. And yeah, this is how like I do branches for trees all the time. Um, yeah, this is the easiest formula for drawing plants is just kind of to do Y shapes and then thicken them up a little bit. So the leaves are going to be the same as the apple here. We're just going to start with a kind of rounded line as our middle line here, and then doing that odd curve shape that ends in a point. And this one, I'm going to put that on both sides of the middle there. And yeah, I'm going to be adding in a couple of leaves here, and one of them is going to be folded over, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second here. So I'm going to be adding in one at the top. So adding in the middle line and then adding in those side lines like that. So on my original sketch here, you can see this one kind of folds over on itself, and that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do. So I start with a very short middle line here, and I draw kind of like a rounded-ish line out from it on either side. And then I add in those rounded lines, but I end them at the line that goes across rather than putting them into a point. I then continue that line and add in the point there. So this is the finished part of our outlining here. Um, so this is all of our construction lines and all of our like base lines drawn in. And now we're going to add in all of our shading and stuff. So I'll just wait for a minute, um, just in case anyone needs to catch up, and then we will keep going with our shading. Okay, so we're going to start with our shading here. And I'm just going to start with a little bit of erasing some things. So I'm going to start by erasing the sides of this line here that we used to find the middle part of our apple. I'm also going to erase any more stray lines that I have. So this is kind of cleaning up your sketch. So any lines that you don't want, this is when I usually will erase things. Um, so just kind of uh, cleaning up everything to make it ready to finalize our sketch. So to start off our shading, I'm going to start by coloring in things like our branches here or our sticks. So I'm just coloring them in, making them look darker. And you can, in this process, make them look a little bit more like natural. Um, so adding in some weird lines or some little like jut offs or things. And that just kind of adds to the look of it being a natural organism. So when I'm coloring in things like branches or the stems of the apples, I'm kind of going quicker than I normally would, and it's just to get an organic feel for the branches done. So when you're going kind of quicker, your lines will be a little bit more organic and a little bit more like less clean. So I like to kind of color in things that are organic a little bit quicker and a little bit messier, and that just adds, like I've said, it adds to the look of it being more organic. So I'm also coloring in uh, the apple stems here and following that same idea as the sticks, just making them look natural. So from here, we're going to add texture to our leaves. And to do that, I'm going to start by outlining the sides of them and then kind of coloring in the sides a little bit here and slowly shading it in from the sides and getting lighter as I go towards the middle. So as I get towards the middle, I'm lessening the pressure of my pencil. So right at the edge, I'm going as hard as I can press without breaking my pencil, and then slowly shading with less force. And then from there, I outline the center line and add in some lines coming out from the center, like so. And that's how I shade in all of my leaves. So between my two sketches here, you can see kind of the difference in my shading, how this shading is a lot more rough and this looks a lot cleaner. And this is actually because of the paper that my sketchbook is made of. So this sketchbook is made for inking. So I do the medium that I use the most right now is traditional um, fountain pen inking. So that's why the paper in my sketchbook is so smooth. So that changes the way that my sketch looks a little bit. But I'm just going through and adding this shading to all of my leaves. And when drawing the lines from the inside to the outside of the leaf, I'm going in a downward motion from where the top of the leaf is. All of my lines are going downward. So you can see they kind of all follow this rounded downward angle, and that's kind of what I'm doing for all of the leaves here, and that's what I do for most of my leaves. And if you look at a leaf kind of up close, like not as up close as seeing like all the intense layers of a leaf, but just um, slightly up close, you can kind of see those veins go from the center downward, as that's the way that the leaf grows off of the tree. So it's just adding little bits of realism from or within our sketch here. And for the leaf that is folded over, I am going to heavily shade the back of it so you can see the difference between the top and the bottom. So you can see I'm adding in a thick line of really dark pencil and then lightening it from there, but just making sure that it has enough contrast to show that it is the back of the leaf. So there are the leaves all done. I'll wait for just a minute here and then we will start shading some other stuff. We're going to do the apples quickly and then we will finish up our sketch by going back to the pot or the vase. So there's going to be 2 more weeks of pencil sketching, and then we are going to be moving on to some ink. We're going to be using pens, brush pens specifically, because those are really fun to use and pretty easy to learn. But if you would like, I can show you some of the inking that I've done to kind of give you a little like an approximation of what the next couple of classes will be. Um, yeah, so um, I haven't quite decided what the last unit of pencil, like the last day of pencil will be. Um, but next week we will be drawing kind of an environment almost. So I'm going to be showing you how I pencil sketch like an actual environment. So I'm going to be using pieces from all of the units that we have used so far. And then, yeah, kind of drawing um, like a place, but more going into kind of how things work together. Um, yeah, but back to our sketch today.
So
We're going, yes.
what is brush pen?
Oh, I can show you. Just give me a second and I will be um back with a brush pen. So I will have a list of supplies ready for you guys when we are doing inking. Um yeah,
Okay.
so this isn't the exact brush pen that we are going to be using, but this is what a brush pen is. And it just has a nib of the pen that is flexible. So you can see on my page here, it's kind of like a very thin brush, but it's in pen form. So that's kind of what we are going to be using next.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. But yes, I will send out a list of some paper recommendations for inking and some pens as well.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, no worries. So for our sketch today, we're going to be moving on to our apples here. And the way that I shade them in is I start by outlining a little line here, and this is kind of our because an apple is kind of shiny. I like to leave just a little bit around the edge of it that stays light. And yeah, so I'm just following it, not all the way around, just slightly, like all the way up on this side and just slightly up on that side. And then from here, I'm taking my pencil and holding it more sideways to get a little bit more color on at the same time. And I'm kind of going in like long circles when I'm shading here. And this is just to kind of keep it even or more even than going just back and forth. And this is what most of like soft shading that we're going to be doing. So this is what we're going to be using for shading in the vase as well, but just going kind of lightly a little bit darker towards the right side of things and just going in soft circles. And as I get towards the left side, I'm lightening up quite a bit with my pencil here. Towards the bottom, I'm still keeping it quite dark as well. And just lightening it slowly as we go towards the left side. So I'm going to be covering almost all of this apple with the lightest gray that I can get with my pencil. And this is just to kind of show that it still has like value to it. Um, so it's not completely white, which means that we don't leave the page completely white while we're doing it. And then I'm also going to shade behind the stem here, like so. And just blend that out into the rest of the gray pencil that we put in. And after I have it all shaded in, I'm going to add in some spots on my apple here. And I'm just kind of adding them in randomly. And I'm going quite dark in some spots and a little bit lighter in others. You can't see it super well on camera, but I'm just adding in tiny little dots just to give the apple a little bit of texture. Okay, I'll just wait for a second and then we'll move on to the second apple. Okay, we're doing this pretty much the same. I'm going to start with that line around the edge of it. I'm not going to do it as much on the bottom here this time, so you can see I'm connecting it to the bottom line here instead of going all the way around. And I'm going to be shading from this side over to the left, the same way that we did for the other one. And then I'm going to add in that same texture on this apple as well. All right, so we're gonna move on to the vase here. We've only got 10 minutes left of class, so I'm just trying to squeeze this all in. So I'm going to start by adding an outline to each of our shapes on the vase. So I'm going to trace the line around each of our spots, like sections here, and I'm just adding in the lines very, very close, like as close as I can get without them overlapping. I'm just tracing in a section here, like so. So we're going to be doing this for all of the sections, just tracing out like an outline of the shape. And then we're kind of going to do the same thing that we did as the apple with our shading. So we're going to be, for these bottom three sections, we're going to be shading from the top to the bottom. So the top of our shading here is going to be the darkest, and then moving down towards the base is going to be lighter. So in just a second, I will show you what I mean with that after I have the three of these spots outlined. And for the apple that overlaps here, I'm just going to be connecting the lines to the apple. I'm not going to be tracing around the apple. So I will shade in this section to show you what I mean for these three, whoa, voice crack, for these three bottom parts. So I'm starting off quite dark at the top here, and then slowly getting lighter as I go down towards the base. So that is kind of how we're shading these other two sections as well. The only other thing for this one specific section is I'm going to slightly darken it near where the vase and the apple overlapped just a little bit. So I'm just adding in the slightest little shadow there. So shading this in is quite the long process here. But just kind of making your like pencil strokes a little bit longer helps fill in these bigger areas. So there is the bottom of our vase done, and we're going to kind of follow the same um method for the rest of the vase, except for the fact that I'm going to round the tops of these shapes here. So you can see on this one, my shapes are like rounded, like so. And I'm going to draw them in like that. And I'm going to shade these pretty evenly rather than adding in a gradient. So kind of making them slightly darker towards the base of them here, but keeping them mostly even throughout that shape. Just like that. So we might be going just a little bit over time today. Um, if you need to leave, that's all right. We should be wrapping up in like 10 or so minutes here. It shouldn't take long. Um, just a little bit longer than our normal class. So I'll just wait for a minute and then we will move on to the neck of the vase here. So the way that I shaded in the neck here is having this line that we have drawn in as the darkest spot for this shading. And I went very light on the shading going downwards. And I stuck to kind of shading these sort of like triangle shapes around where we have already shaded in. And then I kept it slightly darker going upwards, as this is technically the underside of the material, so you want it just a little bit darker here. So, and then I shaded in the inside of our pot or our vase. So I'm going quite dark to start off with near this line at the base, and then feathering it out, going lighter as we go up towards the top like that. So in between any petals that I have here, I'm just coloring it in dark and then adding in just a light amount of shading. So the final step of our sketch here is just our final shadow. Um, so I'll just wait for a second and then we will finish up our sketch. All right. So for the shadow, I kind of took the outline of what we've drawn and
You can see zoom.
just stretched it. Pardon?
You can see this one.
Oh, oh yes, very nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Very pretty. So I'm stretching out and rounding the shapes that we have, and I'm just kind of going around like so, and you can kind of add in slight details in your shadow and just shading in all of this. So when you're closer to um, the objects here, I'm darkening up the shadow quite a bit just to show a little bit of contrast. And then I'm just adding in slight shading here. And you can see it kind of extended onto my next page. Um, yeah. So if you do kind of like drawing things like this, um, when I feel like drawing still lifes, I kind of just Google still life reference and I pick a photo to reference and I kind of like I said, I start with the biggest object or the one that catches your eye, and then I just go in and I put all of my construction shapes and add in details from there. So if you do like sketching like this, um, it's really, really helpful to sketch with a reference photo or a reference drawing. Um, yeah. So here is our finished sketch for today.